All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the RS Sports Podcast. This is episode number 20, Super Wildcard Weekend that we're going to be talking about today. Thank you so much for joining us here on Wednesday afternoon. As you know, we're going to be doing our shows every Wednesday afternoon and every Friday evening or Friday afternoon. You can check my social medias. I always post times, changes, things like that. Fridays are going to be our NBA shows, and Wednesdays, of course, until the Super Bowl is over and we're in the off season, is going to be our NFL shows. The MLB shows are actually coming up too, coming this spring. When spring training starts and everything and the MLB season gets going, I'm very excited about that. But this is, as I said, our Super Wild Card Weekend special. We had a lot going on in Super Wild Card Weekend this week, and I'm going to jump right in here. We're going to start with the Steelers losing to the Browns. I did predict that if you were on my show last week. I thought the Browns were going to win by 3. They won 48-37, and not many people expected the Browns to open up the game the way they did. And that's the reason I want to start there, is because the Browns scored within the first 30 seconds of the game. It was 7-0 Browns off a bad snap, that was all the center's fault, and then the Steelers couldn't fall back on it. And even if they would have, there was a chance for a safety. So you have 7-0 Browns. Then Ben Roethlisberger throws an interception, make that 14-0. Touchdown. Another touchdown was scored by the Browns in the first quarter. By the end of the first quarter, it was 28-0 Browns. And by the end of the first half, I believe it was 35-7 Browns. But I got to give credit where credit's due. Ben Roethlisberger threw 3 picks in the first half. He did not throw a touchdown. In the second half, he threw 4 touchdowns and only 1 interception. Now, granted, he had 4 interceptions on the game and he had 4 touchdowns, but he also threw for over 500 yards. And we don't know if this is going to be Ben Roethlisberger's last season in Pittsburgh. We don't know what the future holds for Ben Roethlisberger. He had been talking about retiring. He has 1 more year left on his contract. I can see Ben Roethlisberger actually coming back for another year, and I can see him just because he might not want to go out on that note. Landon in the chat says that Big Ben needs to retire, and there are some people that think that Big Ben needs to retire, and he very well might be, because what I've seen this year out of Big Ben Roethlisberger is he can't hang with the young guns like he used to be able to, right? His age is catching up to him. We saw that with the Browns game. That's one of the main reasons I predicted that the Browns were going to win this game by 3. Having Kevin Stefanski or not, I still thought the Browns were going to win this game because the Steelers' last 5 games, they went 1-4. Now, they started the season 11-0, and you can credit that to their terrific defense. The Steelers had no run offense, and they have a quarterback who's aging. Now, Ben Roethlisberger is a first-ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. Ben Roethlisberger is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But he's also, I believe he's 37 or 38 years old. In a league where you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes who's in his mid-20s that's doing all sorts of stuff, and he's in the running for MVP every year. He's one of the best in the league right now. Ben Roethlisberger has not shown me enough to say that he can hang with the young guys. Now, if he hangs it up this year, it's going to be a Hall of Fame career. If he hangs it up next year, it's going to be a Hall of Fame career. There's no question about it. The question is, how does Ben Roethlisberger want to go out? Because Ben Roethlisberger might not want to end his last game throwing 4 interceptions. And, granted, he threw 4 touchdowns and over 500 yards. And he's, I don't know if that's the note that, probably not. I would assume that Ben Roethlisberger wants to go out on the note that he wants to go out on. I can see him coming back for another year. He has 1 more year left on his contract. And frankly, I think he could get the Steelers to the playoffs. But if you're Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger comes back for another year, you need to get Ben Roethlisberger a good offensive line so that he has some time to throw the ball. And you need to get a running attack. You need to get some good, the Steelers' running attack was one of the worst in the leagues this year. So you need a running attack. Landon says he's 38, making many mistakes, unlike Brady and Breeze at that age. And, that's a really good point. Ben is 38 years old. Brady and Breeze is 42. Brady is either 44 or 45. And Obviously Ben Roethlisberger is younger than them, but these two were still playing, at very, very good football at that age. And I don't necessarily want to compare though, because there's no doubt about it. Ben Roethlisberger has had a Hall of Fame career. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But Landon, I want to throw something at you that Drew Brees hasn't done. Brady's done it. Drew Brees hasn't. Drew Brees has not won multiple Super Bowls. Ben Roethlisberger has won multiple Super Bowls. Brady has won multiple Super Bowls, regardless of age or not. And that's a really good point, that Brees and Brady were playing better at that age. My point being, if Ben Roethlisberger decides to come back, they need to get a running attack, and they need to get their offensive line healthy. Those are the two things you need. And, if he retires this year or next year, it's going to be a Hall of Fame career. The Steelers said that they're trading him. If he doesn't retire, they said he's making too many mistakes. So I have not heard that. That's breaking news to me, Landon. Thank you. But see, I don't agree with that move, though. I don't agree that with the Steelers trading Ben Roethlisberger, because, again, I go back to the point. Ben Roethlisberger is a good quarterback. Granted, I don't think he can hang with the young guys anymore. I think he runs into a little trouble with the playoffs. But Landon, can you imagine if the Steelers had a running attack in this game? I would have picked the Steelers if the Steelers would have had a running attack. Their defense their defense got them through most of the season. But if the Steelers would have had a running attack, they would have been. I would have picked them to maybe even go to the AFC Championship. And I don't necessarily think they need to draft a QB. They're actually talking about picking up Sam Darnold, which I don't think that's a very good move, because I haven't seen enough from Sam Darnold yet. If they want to win, I think they probably should draft a QB. I don't know if they should draft a QB in this year's draft. I think they should wait a year, draft a QB in next year's draft. But enough said. I've been going on for 7 minutes about the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger. But thank you, Landon, for the comments. They need a running attack. If Ben stays, I don't know if they have a first-round pick, actually. I'll have to look into that, Landon. But if Ben stays, they get a running attack, and they improve the offensive line, the Steelers could be a top team next year. And there's no doubt about it. This year, next year, whenever Ben retires, it's going to be a Hall of Fame career. There's no doubt about it. But nonetheless, the Browns get the win, 48-37. The Browns played a great game without Kevin Stefanski. They played an absolutely phenomenal game without Kevin Stefanski. Everybody was playing well. Myles Garrett played well. Baker Mayfield played well. Kareem Hunt played well. Nick Chubb played well. They had all of their pieces working in that game. Congratulations to the Cleveland Browns. They're moving on to the next round. Our next game that we're going to talk about, not a shocker, 21-9 Saints over the Bears. I picked the Saints to win this game by 7 or 10. Just wasn't the Bears' year. They were struggling with that QB situation, and the Saints are playing like one of the top teams in the NFC right now. The Saints could quite possibly go to this year's Super Bowl. There's a lot of talk now with Deshaun Watson, who wants to leave Houston, that he could go to Chicago. I don't think that would be a bad move. I think Chicago, needs to figure out what they want to do with Mitch Trubisky. There's nothing really more to it. Chicago needs to figure out what they want to do with Mitch Trubisky. It was sort of a mediocre year for Chicago, and I feel like I say that every single year, that it's a mediocre year for Chicago. Their defense is fine. They need to figure out their QB situation. That's the one thing they need to fix. And I don't think they need to fire Matt Nagy, because a lot of people were talking about that. I think Matt Nagy is a good coach. And as for the Saints, I think they could run it all the way. I think they could go to the Super Bowl. This being Drew Brees last year, I think it adds a little bit of confidence to Drew Brees. I think that, Drew Brees, is going to want to win more now that it's his last year. He's going to want to go out on a high note. And I think that could propel the Saints to the Super Bowl this year. But nonetheless, not much more to say about that game. New Orleans has the fewest points allowed in a playoff game in team history now at 9 points. They won 21-9. Congratulations to the New Orleans Saints over the Bears, 21-9. That was pretty much an expected game. The next game we're going to talk about is a game that actually really, really shocked me, because I talked about it last week, and I said that if you were picking against the spread, this was an upset. But I didn't think this was an upset. I think the Titans should have been favored in this game. The Titans weren't favored in this game. They lost 20-13 to the Ravens in an absolutely classic football game. They went back and forth and back and forth. You didn't know who was going to win this game. Lamar gets his first playoff win ever. And let me see something real quick. Baltimore is 6-0 on the road in wildcard games. Now, I picked the Titans to win this game. This was one of the games that I got wrong. I liked what the Titans were doing, but I want to throw a stat out there. I believe they only held Derrick Henry. They held Derrick Henry under 100 rushing yards, and that is something that few teams in the NFL can say they've done ever, because Derrick Henry is just a monster. He is a beast. Derrick Henry, over 2,000 rushing yards for his second consecutive season this year, and he's got the perfect combination of power and speed. There is no doubt in my mind that Derrick Henry is the best running back in the NFL. He's going to be one of the best running backs to ever play the game. 43 total rushing yards for Derrick Henry. Thank you, Landon. And credit where credit's due to the Ravens defense. I mean, they held Derrick Henry to 43 rushing yards. Chucker315, what's up to you in the chat? Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. But again, I want to go back to Landon's point. 43 total rushing yards. This is Derrick Henry. This is a guy who has rushed for over 2,000 yards in the past 2 seasons. Not many teams could stop him. And here come the Ravens. And the Ravens played a very, very good game defensively, and Lamar Jackson played a great game. He struggled on that first drive, but we saw him rush for 2 touchdowns, and he played an amazing game. All around, the Ravens played like a team that, is put together, that is built to win. And, this was a shocker to me because, again, originally I picked the Titans to win this game by 3. And obviously, any game that you play with the Titans, you got to get Derrick Henry going. That's the goal when you're a team like the Titans, because he's that good. My question now for a team like the Titans is, does this mean that without Derrick Henry, the Titans are not a very good team? Have we been overestimating Ryan Tannehill this whole season? And has Derrick Henry carried Ryan Tannehill to the fame that he's been getting? The credit that Ryan Tannehill's been getting? Me, personally, I'd have to see more. I think that Ryan Tannehill is an average quarterback, but I think that Derrick Henry got him there. I think if Derrick Henry wasn't on the Titans, I think that would be a completely different story. I don't even know if the Titans would be making the playoffs if Derrick Henry wasn't on the Titans. That's how much I think Derrick Henry is of importance to Tennessee and the Tennessee Titans. Now, as for the Ravens go, in the next game, Lamar, in his postseason press conference, Lamar Jackson said he's never played in the snow, and they're forecasting snow in Buffalo. But we'll talk about my prediction a little bit later. But I'm telling you, without Derrick Henry, the Titans, man, I'd like to see the Titans without Derrick Henry, because I don't even know that they'd make the playoffs. 43 total rushing yards. I mean, the Titans got within 7 of the Ravens, but without Derrick Henry, the Titans might be I don't want to say one of the worst teams in the league, but they definitely wouldn't make the playoffs, in my opinion, without Derrick Henry on that team. But nonetheless, again, congratulations to the Ravens, 20-13 over the Titans. And our next game, the Buccaneers and the Washington football team, 31-23 Buccaneers. And the Washington football team got within a score. They could have tied this game up and won the game. Tom Brady has 31 career playoff wins, most by a QB since 1950. Tom Brady just continues his amazing career, probably the best quarterback we've ever seen, if not one of the best quarterbacks you've ever seen. But I want to start by talking about the Washington football team. Landon says that the Titans would be a 5-win team at max, and I agree with that. You lose Derrick Henry, and it's crazy. I don't even know what would happen. But I want to talk about the Washington football team for a second. The Washington football team got within 1 score, and that's, of the Buccaneers. And people pegged this to be a blowout. The Washington defense played well. Their quarterback played well. Washington's quarterback played phenomenal in this game. It was amazing. I've never seen, to come off the bench and play this game. I think it was the first game of his career. He played absolutely amazing. And, not much more to say other than that. The Buccaneers looked pretty good, and Washington got within a score of them. Tom Brady with 31 career playoff wins or 33 or whatever the number was, I'm not shocked. Tom Brady's a legend in this sport, and he'll go down as a legend in this sport. But again, Buccaneers played well. The Washington football team played some great offense. 31-23 Buccaneers. Congratulations to them. But the Washington football team surprised me in this game. And now we're going to move on to the second game that I got wrong this week. The Rams over the Seahawks, 30-20. Seattle gets their third home playoff loss in team history, second versus the Rams. It surprised me because I had pegged the Seahawks to win this game by, I believe it was either 3 or 7. The Seahawks looked really bad on offense. I mean, I have, especially in Seattle, I have never seen a defense handle Seattle as well as the Rams defense handled Seattle this weekend. Landon, I know you don't want to hear this because you're a Seattle fan, but I mean, Seattle looked just really, really bad. DK Metcalf struggled. He was frustrated in that game. I think, they should have gotten the ball to Tyler Lockett a lot more. Just all around, the Seahawks did not play well, in my opinion. The Rams defense played very well. And for the Rams to be switching quarterbacks too, a lot of times that's a recipe for a loss. But Jared Goff came back. He played a phenomenal game. And it carried the Rams to win a playoff game in Seattle, which is almost unheard of in the National Football League. And to win by 2 scores, that's also unheard of in the National Football League. It's just crazy. And Seattle, upon losing that game, they fired their offensive coordinator. So maybe finding a new offensive coordinator is the answer for a guy like Russell Wilson and that offense in Seattle. Because I don't think Seattle's a terrible team. And I don't think that the Rams, I think the NFC West is a 3-team division. You're going to have 3 teams competing for that spot in the NFC West. And that's the Cardinals, that's the Seahawks, and that's the Rams. No fans. That shows how much home field has an advantage. That's true, because normally Seattle is rocking, especially in the playoffs. That stadium is one of the loudest in the leagues. Landon has a great point. Without any fans, that's a disadvantage to Seattle when you're playing in Seattle. So that just shows how much the fans have an impact, especially when they're there in a stadium like Seattle's stadium. But the NFC West, that's a 3-team division. I can see Seattle missing the playoffs in years to come. If the Cardinals and the Rams keep improving, that's going to be a 3-team fight to the finish in that division. And I'm excited to see what happens in the NFC West. But again, Jared Goff played a great game. More importantly, the Rams defense played a great game, and maybe that'll carry over into their next game versus the Green Bay Packers this coming weekend. Nonetheless, 30-20 Rams over the Seahawks. And now we're going to move to our final game of the weekend, the game that kicked off this weekend. Bills 27, Colts 24. I got this point margin right on the money, too. I said that the Bills were going to win this game by 3. They get their first playoff win since 1995. And, both teams played very well. Josh Allen, of course, he played very well. He's an MVP candidate. The Colts played very well. Phillip Rivers played well. Jonathan Taylor played well. And, it was just a very fun game to watch. Stephon Diggs played well. And, the Bills are, if there is, now, everybody knows, if you've been following my podcast since the beginning of when I started this a couple months ago, if you've been following my podcast, you know that I have said since the beginning that there is not a team in the AFC that can touch the Chiefs. And then I watched the back end of the Buffalo Bills season. You want the team that could contend with the Kansas City Chiefs and could beat the Kansas City Chiefs, you got a team like the Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills could slip into the Super Bowl. They could be a team that could beat the Chiefs. And I think that's going to be your AFC championship, Buffalo and the Chiefs. And that is just going to be one of the best games all season to watch. I would be so excited to watch Buffalo play Kansas City in the AFC championship. But the Colts got this game close. They brought it within 3 points. And it's, the Colts had a decent year. But when you're going up against a team like the Bills, when you're going up against a team like the Bills, That's always going to be a tough win. And, the Bills are just playing out of their minds right now. Get their first win, first playoff win since 1995, 27-24 over the Colts. So that was, I am finished going over the scores for this weekend. I do want to look at the playoff picture and give you my predictions right now. First, we have the Browns and the Chiefs. This is going to be Sunday at 3:05. And the Chiefs are the 1 seed. The Browns are the 6 seed. I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this game. Chiefs by 7. I would have said the Chiefs by 10, but the way the Browns played against the Steelers, they dominated the Steelers. And getting Kevin Stefanski back, the Browns could be dangerous. I'm surprised I'm not taking the Chiefs by 3 and thinking that it could be a little bit closer. I'm going to take the Chiefs by 7 in this game, and I think the Chiefs advance to their 3rd straight AFC Championship. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, Le'Veon Bell, Chris Jones. The list goes on and on. The Chiefs are going to get to their 3rd straight AFC Championship over the Browns by 7 points this weekend. Our next game, let me pull that up. Ravens and Bills. Ravens is the 5 seed. The Bills are the 2 seed. This is Saturday at 8:15 p.m. on NBC. This game might be a lot closer than some people think. I'm going to take the Bills again by 7. 7-point margin. Lamar's never played in the snow, as we've heard in the post-press conference. And that's gonna come back to hurt Lamar. And the Bills are going to get the win by 7. I think the Bills advance to the AFC Championship. I think your AFC Championship is going to be the Chiefs and the Bills, and that has the potential to be game of the year in the entire year, if they're counting playoff games. But that's going to be a very good AFC Championship if I'm correct, and the Chiefs and the Bills play. Now to the NFC side of things. Saturday night at 4:35, we have the Rams headed to Lambeau Field to play the Packers. Originally, if the Rams defense hadn't played as good as they did last week, I would have said that the Packers would have won this one by 7. I'm going to stick with my pick with the Packers. I say the Packers are going to win this game by 3. It's going to be a very, very close, contested game. The Rams could win this game. We could see the Rams in the NFC Championship. Their defense has to show up. Their defense has to pressure Aaron Rodgers, and their defense needs to play like it's been playing all year. Aaron Donald must get to Aaron Rodgers early, and you have to double team Devontae Adams all game long. But I am going to take the Packers by 3. I think the Packers advance to the NFC Championship. Then we have the Buccaneers and the Saints. This is going to be a very good game. This is Sunday night at 6:40 p.m. on Fox. Brady and Breeze, matchup number 3 of the year. They've seen each other 2 times already, and that might help the Buccaneers more than it helps the Saints. So I think that the Saints are going to win this game, and I'm going to give the Saints the win by 7. 7 points. The Saints are going to win this game, making the AFC Championships the Chiefs and the Bills, and the Saints and the Buccaneers. If I had to pick right now who was going to win these games, if I get them right, if the Chiefs and the Bills go to the AFC Championship, I would say that's a toss-up. That is a toss-up to me. And if the Saints and the Packers play in the NFC Championship, I give the edge to the Saints. I think that the Super Bowl is at least going to have the New Orleans Saints in it, if I'm correct about this. And Landon in the chat says, Brady versus Breeze needs to be on the History Channel. These two were old guys, man. This is Drew Brees last year. That was reported earlier. 42 years old. He's had a Hall of Fame career. I don't know if it's going to be Tom Brady's last career. It very well could be. Or last game. If he loses, it very well could be. But that was funny. It needs to be on the History Channel. So that's it for talking about the playoff picture this weekend. I do want to talk about one more thing, and that is the big news that came out of the NFL this week. If you're an NFL fan, you followed this. I know, I have a lot of Philadelphia fans that I know, Philadelphia Eagles fans that I know, and Landon says he thinks he's got one more year. I can see that. But Philadelphia Eagles have fired Doug Peterson who brought them their first Super Bowl. And Doug Peterson had a winning record in his time in Philly. I believe he was there for 3 or 4 years, but he did bring them a Super Bowl. Maybe it was 5. I can't exactly remember. And here's my take. Right, I think after throwing the game in Week 17 against Washington, I didn't like that. I lost respect for Doug Peterson. I lost respect for the Eagles after that game because you got to play the game with integrity. I don't think that Doug Peterson should have been the first to go. I think Howie Roseman should have been the first to go because Howie Roseman has not made very good moves. Howie Roseman has not drafted a Pro Bowl quarterback in I can't even tell you how long that since he's drafted a Pro Bowl quarterback. Howie Roseman is not a good fit for Philadelphia, and I think Howie Roseman should have gone before Doug Peterson went. Because you see a guy like Jalen Hurts. I would have given Doug Peterson 1 more year. I would have given him 1 more year to try and develop Jalen Hurts. That's my take. And I would have fired Howie Roseman this year. Nonetheless, Doug Peterson does get fired, and there will be a new coach in Philly starting next year. Landon says he agrees. I agree, though. I would have lost the game for that 6th pick. 6th versus 9th with no playoff value, I think it's no question. I mean, but see, that's the thing. I don't think the 9th pick is much different from the 6th pick, in my opinion. Because here's the thing. Moving from the 9th to 6th pick, that's not a big deal for me. And I would rather see them play the game with integrity. To pull a guy like Jalen Hurts, who's had a heck of a year, if they would have started Jalen Hurts at the beginning of the year, if they would have pulled Carson Wentz, which we all knew wasn't going to happen, if they would have said, Carson Wentz, you're out for this year, we're going to see what Jalen Hurts can do, Jalen Hurts would be in the running for Rookie of the Year. He really would be. But I still think that firing Doug Peterson is the wrong move. I think Howie Roseman should have been the first to go. And that's where I end my show today. I mean, they need a receiver. Jamar Chase could drop to the 6th, but not the 9th. Well, that's true. I do agree with you there, Landon. They do need a receiver, but we'll have to see what happens. Anyway, that concludes my show for today. If you enjoyed this podcast, you want to hear more just like it, go ahead and tune in every Wednesday and Friday, right here on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. This has been your Wednesday edition, Super Wildcard Weekend edition of the RS Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, guys.